Amalia, thank you so much. I
Yeah,
think while you were talking, there were
you're
so
welcome.
many questions coming through because it is such
Yeah.
a fascinating topic. So I'm going to hand over the mic to,
Hmm.
if you could, I'm just trying to see who could, uh, if you have a question, can I ask you to raise your hand? Um, and then we can hand over the mic to you, and then you'll be able to engage with Amalia directly. I'm going to mute myself. Alex, would you like to?
So I saw questions from Oliver and Alex, and I gave you now the microphone. You just have to unmute yourself by clicking on the red sign next left on the left side of your name. So if you want to ask a question yourself, Alex, yes, you tried already. Maybe you start.
Hmm.
Okay, didn't work. So maybe Alex once more. If it doesn't work, then we can ask Oliver from Egypt.
Okay,
Oliver,
Susanna, what I'm
Mr.
suggesting.
Hamui? Yes. So Mr. Hamui, you can talk. But unfortunately, we don't hear you. So I would say we take the questions from the chat and Christina will read them out loud.
Thanks so much. I'm going to Alex's question. What is your experience with the population? Are they supporting your NGO activity? Are they conscious about the problems and their roles, potentials, possibilities, and are they committed?
Hmm.
Amalia?
The population. Yeah. At the first time, some they support, and after they really understand what actually the problem is, and also the issue is, they turn to support us. For example, like in in the program, we then supported by one government. This government actually interested in the watershed, but seem that they spend a lot of money, but the result, there's no result that we can see, we can achieve yet. So after we have several meetings with them, they try to involve actively in the program, and then they support for the program also, in this the program also, and also the implementation, like the environmental education. They are supporting us to do the implementation, the environmental education with the community and also the student of the elementary school.
Thank you so much. Alex, if you feel that answered your question, then just perhaps give us a green tick there. And if there's anyone else that would like to ask a question to Amalia, just let me know. Raise your hand like I'm doing now, or type your message in the chat box. While you do that, Amalia, I'm going to offer you a comparison maybe from South Africa. We have a completely different situation. And I think for me, the
Mm-hmm.
most startling contrast is that Indonesia experiences very high rainfall. You're in a tropical climate. You experience widespread flooding,
Mm-hmm.
heavy rains, whereas South Africa is a water-stressed area, and we actually experience shortages. And one of the biggest challenges we have is providing for impoverished households who are unable to contribute rates and taxes. Hello?
Christina, we don't hear you anymore. I don't know what happened.
Hello, sorry, I seem to have
Ah,
lost my
yes.
feed. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, now we hear you. Okay, continue.
Thanks. Um, so I just wanted to ask Amalia, do people contribute rates and taxes? Do they pay for water? Or is all water and water resource management provided free to citizens?
Yeah, actually, the downstream area committed to pay like the payment for environmental services to to the upstream area, but the upstream area seem doesn't know how to spend the money for what they think is how much seed of of a tree that I can buy and then plant it. That's all. So it seemed like, as I told you, that just like business as usual. There's money, I buy something, and then I implement something. Yeah, actually, in the downstream area, they are really committed to give the money for payment for environmental services. But the challenge is then the upstream area, administrative area, that they can think more than only planting and planting, a more futuristic planning. It seems that they don't have any plan for the future, for what actually the upstream should be improved or rehabilitated.
Okay, that's really fascinating that the upstream community are just totally
Mm.
unaware of their impact and responsibility. Is there
Yeah.
perhaps anyone in the group that has a similar challenge in how to actually bring that social and environmental responsibility to different stakeholders? Would you like to share that?
Christina, I will answer some question that there's in the chat box, I think, from Oliver. Do you have any? Do you have a partner, a government partner? Yeah, actually, we have the government partner, as I already explained that in the first time they didn't interest, but then after we do very intensive communication and coordination, they interested and then support for the program. And about the administrative area, water district, so the water usually flows from within the different administrative area. So the management in Indonesia hasn't achieved good result because of these boundaries, because of the administrative boundaries. And from AMBI stakeholder, are they really satisfied after they do their part? They seem not trying to integrate policy and action. Yeah, about the policy, actually they are not integrated, but for the action, they are starting to integrate each other. For example, they right now understand what actually their roles in the water set. Not all stakeholder planting trees, but they the stakeholder knows what actually their authority. For example, like one stakeholder understand that they should uh, consider both the social and economic aspect. Like agriculture agency used to be like they don't interested in the water set, right now they started to give program for the community, that the community not only generate the income but also can conserve the water set.
Thank you so much. I'm going to ask a question from Oliver. Is Oliver's sound working? Or Oliver, would you like to ask the question yourself?
Maybe better you read it out.
Sure. Oliver was asking, do you have decentralized water policies on an administration level in Indonesia? I think that would suggest, almost like catchment agencies. Amalia?
Mm. Yes, we have actually. We have, but s- the implementation it is given to the administrative area who uh, who the water which is the water set flow in. So actually, for the water set itself, actually there's a national government institution who responsible for the any water set in Indonesia. But for the implementation in the grassroots level, it is given to the each administrative area. They just only have like the big frame of the water set management.
Thank you, Amalia. If you can read Needy's comment in the chat box. Needy, I'm going to read your question. It is a
Mm-hmm.
comment, I think, also saying it looks like there is financial
Mm-hmm.
mechanism in place. So the issues that stem is capacity
Mm.
development of upstream actors on what intervention can be appropriately applied, how and by whom. Do you think this need can be addressed? Very good question.
Yes, in the upstream area, I think I can say that the capacity and also the awareness is so lacking. So the challenge is how then to upgrade the capacity in the upstream area actor. Uh, we do the collaboration with between upstream and downstream. That's why this collaboration actually address to how actually the downstream and upstream can exchange their idea and share the idea what actually should do. So what we do is give the exchange forum and also the capacity building forum for those actors. Yeah. What specific competence do they need for the upstream area? Uh, how to think in the helicopter view. So it just not only the upstream area problem or issue, but how uh, the upstream effect to the downstream area. So what actually specific needed for the upstream area is how they can do the systematic thinking, do the helicopter view on what actually water set issues and problem as I
Yuda, you have a
always
question?
said, stepping into another shoes, how it
There seems to
Hello,
be a
hello,
problem with
Huda.
the There seems to be a problem with Amalia's micro. So maybe we go on, Christian, with another question.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, Raisa, I see your question. I'm going to ask everyone to maybe think about what the leadership challenge is. As far as our role in stakeholder dialogues and water resource management and trying to link these two communities. Um, Amalia, I'm not sure if your sound is repaired, um, but I'd really like you to
Yeah.
just maybe
Hello.
describe your leadership challenge with this particular case study in Garang, and
Mhm.
how you managed it.
Mhm. Yes. My leadership competence to this one. The first one is about the how to put the common value in the one way. So all of us, all of the actor have their own value, their own vision and mission. How then we put it in the one together for one river one management in Garang Motorsek. That is the first one. And the second one about how then I can to to do the more empathy for another one. Um, I usually say it like this: if I were you, if I were him, if I were them, what actually happened? If I were people in the downstream area, what happened to me if in the upstream area already broken, already damaged? That's what actually the leadership competence that I face of. And about the knowledge and skill, how I can think out of the box, not only business as usual, just plant a tree, but seeing this in the helicopter of view, that this is not about the problem of the sedimentation, but also about the community, about the people, about the people in upstream and also in the downstream area. That's really struck me in the first when I started this program.
That's really interesting. Thank you, Amalia. I know Yuda had a question. I'm not sure if your microphone is working, but perhaps you could try by putting the green button on the. Yuda, if your sound's not working, I'm going to hand over to Oliver, who has a question. Thank you. I see your hand raised. Oliver?
Oliver, you should be able to unmute yourself now. I gave you the micro right. Yes.
Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my question is, when we are speaking about integrated water resource management and considering the communication between upstream and downstreams, are there any difference in the interests between upstream and downstream? And I'm thinking about, for example, irrigation for agricultural production or for energy production or maybe for the use of water for drinking. So what are the difference between upstream and downstream?
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, the downstream area, they really interested because this water is to provide the drinking water or the daily water for the downstream area. So they are really interested that this is the water for supply their daily need. In the upstream area, little of them interested in this one. They just interested in the irrigation, for agriculture, But yeah, because of these different interests, there are no program or policy in the improvement of this water management. So in the upstream area, they focus on how they can provide water for the agriculture, but in the downstream area, they focus on the water for the daily need. In the upstream area, they're also interested to develop more and more settlement housing near the watershed. In the upstream area, the area is really comfort. So everybody coming from the downstream area sometimes uh, buy the housing in the upstream area. So it also uh, the interest of land use change in the upstream area.
Do you have any water plan for the upstream or covering upstream and downstream area?
Uh, uh, right now, the institution who responsible for the watershed is developing the framework of watershed in this area to integrate between the upstream and downstream area. They are still working to developing this document.
Thank you, Oliver. I hope that answers your question. I'm going to read out Holmes' question. Unless your microphone is working, would you like to ask Amalia yourself, or it's not?
It's not working. You also already shared in the chat, Christina, but thanks for the
Thank you.
try.
Okay. Holm is asking, there is a transnational treaty in place, but in fact not working. Big interests by the respective governments. Upstream nations are building dams. Downstream nations are producing cotton. Beside the dilemma of upstream nations ignoring downstream water needs, the intra-national water legacy is not working either. Irrigation schedules are to be controlled by water associations, but in fact farmers just irrigate whenever water is available. So far for the background. Holmes, sorry, I haven't been following your entire thread. Susanna, perhaps you can just jump in here and let me know where Holm is writing to us.
That was no question. He just wanted to share his thoughts from Uzbekistan. That was the intention. So there's no question itself. But to share his experiences from Uzbekistan, he was writing.
Thank you so much. A really interesting comment. So it seems that people just use water as they need it, and there really isn't a sense of cooperation um, or empathy. I always come back to empathy because it's about being able to imagine what the circumstances are of the people living downstream or upstream from you.
Yeah. Actually, what we want to show to them about the empathy, one of the workshop of the program is doing the sensing journey. So we we invite them all together and try to walk in the watershed. That they were surprised and shocked actually when we just bring them in the watershed, that they can see the real condition of the Garang watershed itself. For example, like they found the very old women who pick the stone and then just uh, fill up and sell it to the sell it. So it's more than what they expected uh, about the Garang watershed. So we give them a space to work and also to observe in Garang watershed. It's really interesting that they can see what really happened in Garang watershed.
I see Oliver has a comment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to read it. I think that a reason why they just use it is it's for free, so they don't often value
Mm.
it. I would agree, Oliver,
Yeah,
because in South Africa we don't
yeah.
have enough water, so we have a completely different kind of
Mm.
conflict. And Oliver continues, they don't understand why they should give up the benefit making money with free water so that they can benefit from the water. Got it. Okay. We're approaching 5 to 10, so I think what I'd like to know from the group is whatever question or expectation you came in with um, when you joined the session. Has your question been answered? Do you still have a question regarding your leadership journey? I see Holmer's got a new question. He's asking about the pricing structure of water. Amalia, would you
Mm.
like to field this one?
Yeah. In Indonesia, we have like a regulation for the water resource that seem that the water can be privatization. I mean, like if you have money, you will own the water. But a good idea when we really can value the water with the money, so everybody cannot use the water for freely. I mean, like yeah, for the basic need. I'm agree that it is free, but for the commercial one, I think the private should pay more than what we are paying now.
Okay, that's very interesting. Oliver, you've just made a really interesting comment. Maybe give a free budget relying on the square meter of the field. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and we actually have a system like that in South Africa, which we call free basic water, which entitles
Mm.
impoverished people to 25 liters of free water per day. And the challenge with this policy is that it might be acceptable in an urban setting, but in a rural setting, 25 liters is certainly not enough for sustainable livelihoods and watering your crops, and taking care of your livestock. Um, but certainly a free basic water allocation seems to help, especially when you're dealing with poor communities. Oliver's comment, a core problem in Egypt is that 1 cubic meter of water in agriculture produces less than 10 US dollars, while in tourism, the yield is more than 100 US dollars. That's really interesting.
Mm.
But are both users paying for the water, Oliver? think what Oliver's conversation regarding the Egyptian example is that we start to explore what is sustainable use of water, and how
Mm.
water could actually become a revenue stream, if it's managed appropriately. Amalia, what do you think of that?
Yeah. Um, the end of our program or policy, I think we should refer to the sustainable development. I think we cannot consider only today's or this year's, but for the future. How we use this water effectively, efficiently, and also sufficiently, so we can meet the approach of sustainable development, so we can still provide what actually we need.
Okay. We're starting to get into a really interesting discussion here on different water users, and who should have the rights to,
Mm.
uh, you know, uh, different water allocations, I would say. Um, Oliver's bringing his example from Egypt, and saying the tourism sector is dominating, um, whereas agriculture possibly doesn't have enough water. I can tell you that in the South African example, there is a strong bias towards the mining sector. Um, and not only do they consume a great amount of water, but they also potentially contaminate our water for future use. We're currently dealing with a new mining license in South Africa regarding fracking, and this will obviously have impacts on our underwater, or rather our groundwater reserves, and affect a lot of people living in the Karoo Basin. I think what I would like to frame the question as is, what is the leadership challenge when you have competing water users? Sorry, I'm just catching up with your questions. Uh, Again, Oliver's telling us very interesting facts from Egypt, that agriculture employs 30% of the national workforce. Oliver, it would be interesting to give me the tourism employment figures so that we can compare that. And Nidhi has a comment from, is it Uzbekistan? Prioritizing water use should be dealt with using scientific evidence, economic policies, balanced tariffs, I think he meant. Nidhi, are you suggesting a sliding tariff scheme based on different water users? Perhaps you can use the chat box to respond. Oliver, again, talking about the excessive use of water in the tourism industry in Egypt. Oliver, I feel your pain regarding the golf courses. We have hundreds in South Africa. I wouldn't mind seeing people playing on brown golf courses. Holm, absolutely. Your leadership challenge question. Should we be looking at how do we bring all stakeholders together? How do we find a common language? How do we define common interests and develop a water management strategy, and consequently put them into practice? Amalia, can I hand over that one to you? Amalia, have we lost you?
Hello. Yeah. Yeah, Christina, I think the last one about the what actually the leadership's challenge, I mean, on the water set is about the cooperation for sustainable outcome. So cooperation for deep change, that the approach is not the business as usual, but for the future, for the sustainable development itself, should be the fundamental principle for the any program or policy in the watershed management. And then like so many actor and who will get what, and yeah, just consider about this one.
Thank you. Um, I think I'm going to take Oliver's case study from Egypt and maybe try and frame that in a question. So what we're seeing here is, should people be allowed to get a water allocation if it's unsustainable? And how do we manage that? I don't know if the tourism sector pays more than the agricultural sector. It would seem it does. Um, but we seem to have this conflict in many different areas. So we have competing water users, but some are using more than their share in an unsustainable way and potentially not paying for that water.
Mm-hmm.
How do we solve that
Yeah.
challenge? Oliver raises a very good point. We need to look at what we call in our South African management paradigm, we call it new water, which is basically looking at
Mm-hmm.
recycling water streams, potentially looking at how we can recover wastewater, how we can improve our rainwater harvesting. I'm just looking at Holmes' comment about water as a basic human right. As far as I'm aware, it is still very much part of the development framework. Um, and we are now approaching setting new targets in the post-2015 agenda. Um, and I think a lot of new emphasis is coming to this debate that looks at gender equality. It looks at different decision makers, who controls the decision making process. Home, can I hand you the mic? Oh, sorry, can't remember. Is it home doesn't have sound?
No, he doesn't. Christina, just because we announced the webinar only for closing soon, so I would suggest that we make the official closing now for people who have other appointments. But we encourage all the volunteers who want to discuss further in the chat. You could stay longer. But as other people maybe have to leave soon, I would rather prefer to make the official closing now, and everybody invited to stay, of course. We will stay in the room. So, Christina, I would hand over to you and Amalia to say your final word.
Amalia, I'm going to ask you to wrap up. I think it's been a wonderfully lively conversation, and I appreciate everybody's questions. We really need to try and
Yeah.
capture all of these and
Mm.
upload it to the MOOC. I'll hand over to you now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much for the response and for the question. I think it's really a really good time to exchange the idea, the experience. Some good question, and also about the comment. I think I will reflect to what actually I already done here. in the Garang watersheds, and good lesson learned from all of you. If it is possible, I will maybe implement it in Garang watershed management in here. It's really nice to have a chat discussion with you. Thank you for all your response.
Thanks so much, Amalia. If anybody would like to check out, you're welcome. And please come back and look for the recording of the session if you want to see all the questions. Otherwise, perhaps just give Amalia a round of applause to let her know that she's done such a wonderful job in sharing her case study with us. I see we still have about 16 people in the chat. If you have new questions or comments, you're welcome to post them.
Yes, also from my side, thanks everybody for joining. And I wanted to say not only Amalia made a great job, also you, Christina. So also applause for you. And yeah, so the recording will be online in as soon as possible. And thank you everybody for joining. And as we said, you can stay in the chat and discuss further, but the webinar is officially closed now. So thank you, Amalia, thank you, Christina, and thank you everybody else. Have a nice day. And there will be another webinar today already.
Thank
It's
you.
not the next on Monday because there will be the webinar on climate change. It's today at 2:30 UTC time, what is 4:30 German time. So everybody is invited to join today.
Thanks, Raisa. Hello. Raisa?
Maybe you talk on Skype better with Raisa.
Thank you.